software development process and lifecycle at Sybite Technologies. In order to understand what your technical team does or how your product gets developed, you first need to understand the process by which your idea is conceptualized, developed, and maintained. This process is known as Software Development Lifecycle, or the SDLC. Here, we will explain the entire software development process. There are 7 key points to understanding software development lifecycle. Phase 1, planning. Phase 2, requirement analysis. Phase 3, design. Phase 4, implementation and coding. Phase 5, testing. Phase 6, deployment. And Phase 7, maintenance. So it all starts with a simple business inquiry, where the client wants to implement his idea into reality by developing a great product. He discusses his idea with our business analyst and project manager at Sybite Technologies, and then they sign an NDA and project agreement to get started. This will move us into the next phase, planning. Together with the customer, stakeholders, and a business analyst will outline the requirements of the application and create a complete scope of work. Later, this entire scope of work will be divided into multiple modules or small functional units. Let's take an example of registration and login module. 1. User registration. 2. Login. 3. Log out. 4. The dashboard landing page, and so on. Throughout this course, we'll be running multiple iterations of the SDLC, to which new requirements and new features will be added. Now that we have the outline requirements, let's take them and move on to the requirement analysis phase. Here's our team operations, developers, product owners, and testers will all meet up in an office for a few hours and define each outlined requirement and give more planning details. Let's start with requirement number 1. User registration will need a username, input field, a password field, a checkbox to accept the terms and conditions, a submit button, and the ability to save the user interactive database. Then we'll move to requirement number 2. The login will need to login page to allow returning users to log back in to our system. For this, we need another username input field, a password field, along with another submit button. From this, we'll need to read the user's information out of the database and log them into our system. Requirement number 3 will require a log out button, usually located around the same error, with the users logging in front. When they press the logout button, their session out of the browser to prevent other people from returning and logging back into their account. Finally, a requirement number 4, the dashboard. This will essentially be the home page of our application. After the new user is registered, they should be redirected to the dashboard. Also, when the user logs in with the returning account, they should be redirected to the dashboard. For our first SDLC, I will keep the requirements easy in upcoming videos, and we'll dive further in with much harder customer requirements. One of the requirements have been analyzed by the team, and Define the product owner will take all the defined requirements and create tickets in a project management system. From here, we'll move into the design phase of the SDLC. The design phase may include the business rules, the user interface layouts, color schemes, what programming languages to use, frameworks, system server design, database relationships, an architect of the application, mobile aspects, supported browsers, and much more. Next, we'll discuss the implementation and the coding of the application. The implementation and coding phases where everything starts to become fun. The operations team will set up the physical hardware for the servers, the developers will start writing the code, the designers would continue planning the user interface, and the testers will analyze the requirements to start building test cases for their test plans. Even in this stage, testers are incredibly valuable. They start to imagine the usability of the application and see how everything flows together. Sometimes, while writing test cases, they can discover that things don't make sense, and help free design fundamental flaws in the early stages of the application. In the next step, we will be discussing one of the most important phases, which is the testing phase. So why is the testing phase so important? Imagine that the developer has finished coding some of our new features in our requirements. We found that when the user logs out, that it's not actually during the session in the browser, and then another person can walk up to the computer, click on the login button, or click the refresh on the page, and they gain access to the account, getting access to all of their money and start making payments on various things. This would be a huge and expensive, terrible bug that will get released if we didn't have testers to test these steps. So what does a tester actually do during the testing phase? Now that we have the servers all set up and the databases set up, developers have finished coding, they've given us an application, an actual website that we can log into now. Now we can start testing and executing that our test cases from the test plans that we created, and validate all of the requirements have been met. Make sure all the functionality is working as expected, and find as many bugs as we possibly can, which could be color schemes incorrect. Or there's a user interface bug somewhere, the critical issue people not being able to log out. Maybe the users can even register. There's so many mistakes that developers can make. So as we're testing, we start to find bugs, and what we'll do is we'll report them into a bug tracking system, which has been assigned with developer. They'll go and they'll fix the bug, fix the issue in the sign of back to us this is hold of a bug's life cycle. You may have noticed that I've mentioned test cases, test plans, and bugs. In the upcoming videos, one of the bug lifecycle iterating with developers, and how to write test plans and test cases. Up next, we'll talk about the deployment phase. The deployment phase, the operations team will end up appearing the staging or development environment systems that we've been testing it and get them ready for production, meaning little install, new hardware, brand new servers, have everything scalable for production. This includes setting up the links, setting up the databases for real users, syncing up with the development teams and release managers. Once that is completed, all of these tasks, our application will go live to real users. This brings us to the final phase of the SDLC, maintenance. So imagine the application released and our application became so successful, we're just getting millions of users logging in and registering and using this application. So we need to maintain the servers in the environment. They need to monitor that the load, the stress, everything coming into service by so many users logging in and using it doesn't bring down the system. They need to make larger servers, larger databases, and faster computers. There's a lot of stuff that goes under the maintenance phase. There will be bugs found in production. It's called production support. Frequently, users will email with their issues, and you can stop and investigate what they're planning about, what their issue is, figuring it out, write up a bug, get it resolved into another deployment to production with issues fixed. So to summarize what we've discussed, planning, requirement analysis, design, implementation and coding, testing, deployment, and maintenance. All right, awesome. That wraps up the video on the SDLC and our software development approach. Thanks for watching this video. Click on www.sybite.com for more information, or reach us through this email, info at sybite.com.